Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh, my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine. Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, joined by my fellow co-hosts and filmmakers, John and Elaine Woolscroft.
Are you going to bark all day, little doggy? Or are you going to bite?
Ooh, that was random. I liked it. I was a fan.
Random.
Well, nice Tarantino reference right off the bat. We'll see if I can do every movie.
You've brought it strong so far,
That's
and
right.
we appreciate your work.
That's right. So Elaine's back with us.
Hi, I missed you guys.
How were
our
gorillas?
our lovely listeners. The silverback gorillas are good. You know, funny that you make that joke. You know that I did little kid seminar on silverback gorillas when I was like 10, right?
Seriously?
Well, that's why
I went to the zoo. Like, it was at the Pittsburgh Zoo, and my parents just dropped me off, and I don't know, went shopping or whatever, and learned all about silverbacks. Didn't get to snuggle with them, which is super lame.
You don't want to snuggle with a silverback gorilla. It'll rip your face off.
It'll think I'm its baby.
No, it'll rip your face off.
No, it'll rip your face off. It's not Ren and Stimpy.
No.
Like where a giant animal thinks Ren's its baby.
Oh.
You know?
Well, no one told me. I'm glad we figured it out. Damn.
So we're on episode 68, and this week we're going to be talking about Quentin Tarantino.
You know, I was going to quit after 10 episodes because I thought that's how much you should make. Then I was going to start going into writing plays and novels.
That's weird because we were going to fire you after 15.
That's right. We planned on that.
It was a thing we were going to do, but here we are.
We'll circle back to that whole 10 thing.
Totally. Totally.
I'm just giving early nuggets. You know?
That's right. But before we get to all that,
Speaking of nuggets
and crap, delicious stuff, we got a little bit of a news bit, and it's kind of retreading stuff we talked about last week with some DC stuff. So, John,
back to the DC universe.
John, you want to fill us in on what's going on in DC land?
Apologies that we're doing 2 DC stories 2 weeks in a row.
You should be sorry.
This is where we're not bought off by Warner Brothers.
No.
And if we were, we wouldn't say such disparaging things about their movie franchises.
Though I am willing to sell out at any time. Doesn't matter to who. I'm ready.
I thought you were selling out to Disney.
Yeah, dude. I have Disney, Grey Goose vodka. I don't give a shit.
So you're the Village Pike, is what you're saying.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I'm the honey pot because everyone's had a taste of the sweet stuff.
Oh,
that's my favorite euphemism.
That's a good one.
Favorite euphemism.
I like the
because it isn't shaming. It isn't shaming.
What that?
It isn't. Well, it isn't.
People
as,
stand in a line to eat your box.
It isn't as shaming. As usual, John, your illustrative properties are your best quality. I just don't think it's as shaming. I think it's a good thing. Empowering. Anyway, the DC universe,
John. What do we got?
Well, apparently, the world's greatest director, living director, wants to direct the world's stupidest movie.
Does that surprise you guys?
He doesn't want to direct it, though.
All right, hold on.
No, he doesn't want to direct
Okay,
it.
sorry, I got excited.
I thought he.
No,
I was pretty
he wants
sure
to be involved.
Oh, I thought he was directing.
Todd Phillips is going to direct it.
You know, I've seen rumors of him directing and Scorsese.
No one knows.
Yeah.
Scorsese might be involved, maybe
think
writing it or something.
We didn't even say, guys, the Joker origin movie is what we're talking about.
Yeah, unfortunately.
A little backgrounding, always good.
There's no point in doing an origin story to the Joker, apparently, unless you're Tim Burton and you've never read a comic book. The whole point of the Joker is to not know his background. And even the Killing Joke, which is the
closest
definitive, air quotes, which you can't see, background story is that he's an unreliable narrator, and there's a very good chance that this background story that he's telling, how he became the Joker, isn't even accurate. There is no definitive background story as a character because there's not supposed to be. He's just supposed to be the incarnate of lunacy and madness. And
it's supposed to be a force of nature.
Yeah. And if you find out where he came from and why he does what he does, it kind of defeats that whole purpose. But here we go.
Here we are.
Yeah. I'm just curious if they're going to basically make an entirely new Joker, or if they're going to do the whole Joker from Suicide Squad.
Well, I read that Jared Leto's not going to be in it.
Thank fucking God.
Well, here's where things get baffling. Apparently, Jared Leto is going to still be playing the Joker, just not in this movie. Apparently, Suicide Squad 2 and Gotham City Sirens will feature Jared Leto, but this Todd Phillips Martin Scorsese project will have a different Joker.
And here's another thing
fuck
too.
you.
And you want to talk
so
about
confused.
more confusion? Yeah. The Batman movie, the standalone Batman movie, is also not going to be tied in with any of this shit.
What? Guys,
Seriously.
it's dark in here and I'm scared.
And they've already, the guy who's directing the standalone Bat movie said, yeah, I'm not really tying in with any of that stuff.
How can you get away with that?
I don't... It's DC.
No.
They give no fucks.
Well, because Edgar Wright was kicked off of Ant-Man because he was like, I don't want to make like a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. I want to make an Ant-Man
because
movie.
Edgar Wright is a master builder, if we're talking Lego terms, and he did not want to do what Marvel and Disney were telling him to do.
Yeah, for better or worse, like Marvel replaced him because they had to have it fit into their whole universe. How can this guy just be like, yeah, I'm making a Batman movie that doesn't fit in your stupid universe?
When your movies are shit,
you get a little more leeway.
You get a little bit more leeway because it's like, as long as it's not Batman v Superman.
That should not be your get out of jail free card, though. But
it is the get out of jail free card. It's the ultimate get out of jail free card, as long as it's not Batman v Superman. That's where they're at now.
That's so pathetic.
So, what in God's name is Martin Scorsese going to be doing on this project if he's not directing?
Well, from what I read, it's supposed to be set in like the gritty 80s / late 70s.
Oh, good.
And it's supposed to kind of be more of a crime drama type movie and less of the goofiness. So my only guess is that they're basically going to redo the backstory that was illustrated in The Killing Joke and make that more or less the definitive real backstory.
Canon.
Yeah, they're gonna canonize it in film.
So are they going the chemicals route then? Are they going back
they kind of have to. Like, out of all the things we know about the Joker, that's about the only thing we know is the real reason. I mean, for the most part.
Yeah, it's a no from me.
On a separate matter, I did read this week that DC Comics has actually named who the Joker is.
Really?
In canon. Jack Napier.
Okay.
Wait, so they went with the Burton movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But everybody was so pissed.
I guess in a new issue of Batman they're coming out with, they actually went and named him as Jack Napier.
But all the fanboys in 89 were so pissed because they just gave him a name and a backstory and an origin story. And so now they're just leaning in.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm so confused.
Has anyone given any regard for an audience, like, ever?
No. As I said, it's DC. They don't give any fucks.
They really don't.
Guys, I'm starting to think they shouldn't try to make a gigantic cinematic universe with 100 characters and 4 million movies.
But they gotta catch up to Marvel. Come on.
Everybody's gotta catch up
opinions.
to Marvel. You know?
Gotta catch up to fucking
We're gonna
Marvel.
get like the Accused universe and all these other. Are we gonna get the Deer Hunter universe?
John, that's not okay. He goes.
Kramer versus Kramer universe. It's gonna be a whole series of divorce movies, like Ordinary People and Kramer versus Kramer. Gonna be the same universe.
Oh my god,
it's gonna be great.
The Philadelphia universe would be very small.
Oh, Angels in America could be in that.
Yeah. Canon. It's canon.
Everything's canon. Everything's got a franchise. Everything's got a universe.
There's a Captain Planet episode of a kid that gets AIDS.
Is there?
Yeah. Yeah. John's obsessed with it.
Oh, it's fantastic.
He's obsessed with it. It's his favorite thing.
Okay, you can't leave me hanging on this. You got to tell me more about this episode.
The kid just gets a botched blood transfusion, and the doctor's very like laid back about it. He's like, yeah, sometimes people just get AIDS. And
sometimes people get malpractice.
Yeah.
Very devil may care, if you will.
And the little kid, of course, gets a Captain Planet. He's like, this is bull hockey. And he has to
Does he sound like Mickey Mouse?
Yes, kind of.
Okay. Just asking.
And in the whole episode, like the bad villains want to like turn the town against him because somehow that's going to ruin the environment.
Okay. That's a thing.
Well, I mean, I guess people's soul inside the environment. I don't know.
And then the Heart Kid actually had like a lot to do. Of
course, he did.
Yeah. And then there's a big basketball game they don't want him to play in, and Captain Planet like grabs a microphone and does this big speech about how like you can't get AIDS from like sweat and like farts, and
farts,
and nobody's like, what is that giant like coconut water popsicle with Joker hair doing here? Is that some kind of demon?
Some sort of blue man basically told me that you can't get AIDS from farts and sweat. So I'm going to believe the blue man for here.
So, we'll go for Captain Planet for doing an AIDS story. You didn't see the Ninja Turtles be like, "Cowabunga, I don't have HIV." That never happened.
Wow, John. Even for you, this is exciting.
Yeah.
So I guess another DC movie to look forward to, or not.
Fucking DC.
They're hurting me, guys. They're killing me.
Donatello does transients as well as machines. So
okay. All right, you're cut off.
What?
We really should have fired him, Brian.
You should have. But he's only doing 10 episodes, though. He was only doing 10 episodes.
I know.
Because he stated that.
He's just still here.
Like a certain individual director that we're going to be talking about.
Oh, with the transition!
I just did it!
Yes!
It only took me 68 episodes.
The powers that be.
Bam.
That's true. We are going to go to a quick break, and you'll get a message from our partners at the Epicast Network. And when we come back, we will have all the Tarantino that you could ever possibly want.
Hey guys, this is Marta from Marta on the Move. I hope you're enjoying this podcast. When you're done with this one, you should go check out mine on www.martaonthemove.com. On the Epicast Network, you can find me on Twitter at I Can't Find Marta. If you like interesting people and places in Pittsburgh, food and drink, travel advice, and general nerdery, check it out and keep it moving.
And so basically, I just thought he had a giant forehead and kind of looked like... Oh, we're back. Sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
Dude, you totally cut off. What the fuck? Seriously? I have one thing that I do that's all the time. Is this because I stole a transition? You hurt me. You hurt me. Okay, so yeah, we're back. Thanks.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
We're here too. It's not just the John show.
It's not just the John show.
Yet.
Yeah, that was a message from our friend Marta from Marta on the Move. You got me all flustered now. And check her out. She's actually got an event coming up on October 13th. It's pretty cool. It's called True Spooky Stories of Pittsburgh. It's a live podcast recording. It'll be held at the Carnegie Coffee Company. Friday, October 13th at 7 p.m. Till 9. So
sounds like a super cool event.
It does.
I'm so ready for Halloween, which I assume is the season of September and October till mid-November. I love Halloween.
Halloween is every day.
I love Halloween so much.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
That was creepy, Brian.
Halloween is every day for me. But
1,000-yard
Skeleton,
stare.
you need to learn about Christmas.
But around Halloween time, that's when my madness spreads to everyone.
Yay!
So, yeah, QT, or Quentin Tarantino, as the layman knows him.
Oh, the layman.
I wasn't talking about him earlier, about gargoyle faces and big foreheads. That wasn't me.
No,
Rude.
that was
And you certainly didn't bring it up again.
Yeah.
No.
So we don't know how the hell this episode's going to go down, by the way. So we kind of are... We're gonna kind of do a retrospective
we're all
type
students
deal.
of film,
Yeah.
do we have some background information to share with the listenership? Do we?
Okay.
Yeah, so this is going to be very similar to the style of our Tim Burton episode.
Yeah.
So we're kind of going in that vein here. The second of our retrospective. And once again, we're talking about a filmmaker that films are very easily definable to that filmmaker. Cinema verite, kind of leaning more towards cinema narcissism to a degree. When the films stop being about the films and more about the filmmaker.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Very true of Tarantino.
Mr. Tarantino was born March 27th, 1963, in Knoxville, Tennessee, where he was actually named after Burt Reynolds' character, Quint Asper. His mom was very much into films at the time and dated some failed actors at the time. And eventually he had moved to Los Angeles and then had to move back to Tennessee and then back to Los Angeles, where, once he had moved to Los Angeles permanently, got a job working at a very famed video store, which now, of course, I'm spacing on as we're doing our podcast.
You had this all prepared.
Hey, I'm more
didn't you?
concerned that our listenership knows what a video store is.
Back in
Is
the day,
everybody our age?
While
or?
you're finding it, Could you
Would you like me
guys
to
please
explain
explain
what
what
the
a
video
video
store-
store
okay.
is?
No, that's condescending and shitty. People know what video stores are.
Some
but
people don't.
I'd like
Yeah.
to say how much I miss them.
I honestly do too. I miss the video store.
It was so
I miss
fun looking at the titles, and you got to like take the physical video out of the store.
Well, it's also this. Like, it's the same thing as record stores. You know, like people go to
Yeah.
record stores and they all glorify the record store. The video store for me was the record store.
Agreed.
You know, like I would pay attention to the box art, and the coolest box art, honestly, would be the thing that I took home.
Oh, me too.
You know?
So I was a sucker for that.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you used to, before digital downloads, you had to go to an actual place to get a video cassette, then a Laserdisc, and then a DVD.
Well, it was just like a Redbox machine, except
Yeah.
it was a store with employees inside.
Yes.
And there were lots of movies.
Yeah. Oh, lots of
Like,
movies.
it wasn't just 20.
Hundreds.
Are you trying
Maybe
to tell me
1,000.
that there's not a man in that Redbox machine?
There is not. That is not what hands you the video.
I have
Dave,
to
when you
stop
try
putting my
tell me.
resume.
I
onto
like
a
to.
Redbox.
Here's the thing. I like to believe that inside of every Redbox machine is one of Santa's elves,
Ooh.
and that during the off season, you know, they all work in the red boxes. You know,
That's Santa. He's
sorting
always
the
thinking
movie.
of everything.
He is. He kind of, you know, gives his slave labor to Redbox.
Well, so what you're saying is Santa's elves are wondering what the hell happened to Ray Liotta's career.
Another one?
Yes, I do.
Was this even in the theaters?
Savage as always, my friend.
Yeah.
Video Archive was the name. It's probably, which is a strange thing to say because how many famous video stores are, but like top 3
Yeah.
most famous video rental places, you know. And so working there was actually like a big honor. He met a lot of his collaborators there, and while working there, he wrote the screenplays for True Romance, which he didn't direct but sold. Natural Born Killers, another script that he had sold, and Reservoir Dogs,
Which he did direct.
Which he did direct.
and you know, I was curious because, like, how do you go from being, you know, a weirdo video store clerk? Well, the guy actually has an IQ of 160. So
yeah, I
he's-
don't doubt that he's very.
he's on the
No, I think
hyper
he's
intellect
extremely
level.
intelligent.
Yeah, but like, how do you go from being an antisocial kind of weirdo looking guy working at a video store, which he also admits he was incredibly overweight at the time, to being, you know, an overnight Sundance sensation? But a lot of people would come into this video store that had some fame. One of them was Tony Scott. And he actually ended up hobnobbing with Tony Scott enough that he showed him some of the screenplays. And Tony Scott wanted to buy Reservoir Dogs, but he said, "Oh no, I have that one earmarked for my directorial debut."
Well, Tony Scott ended up doing True Romance, though.
Right, and he paid him $50,000 for that script.
Oh, I want to sell a script.
But the Reservoir Dogs script got around to Harvey Keitel, who said, "I'm in this movie," you know, and he was able to help get enough money, about $1.4 million.
God, that's like nothing now.
Right, to make Reservoir Dogs, but also then got on Buscemi and other
Yeah.
folks. So this movie went from being, because he was planning on making it on 16 millimeter, Tarantino was, with his buddies. But,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
they got distributing backing and budget and Harvey Keitel on it almost overnight. And thankfully he was able to, you know, deal out the goods, and the movie was fantastic.
Yeah.
Although, if you do go back and look at it now, you can clearly see that it is his first movie, and it's also done for $1.4 million.
What was the year on that?
1992.
92.
Okay.
Yeah, but the thing with Reservoir Dogs especially is it's raw cinema, you know. It like, you look at his later work, you see the frills of having the Hollywood backing and that sort of thing. But when you get down to it, Reservoir Dogs is ultimately Quentin Tarantino at his most undistilled as a director. You know, you see shades of where he's going with, you know, the snappy dialogue that kind of gets exhausting at times.
And I feel like that's exhausting now, but I mean, when he first was
Back then
doing
it wasn't.
work, I mean, it would have been so fresh then.
Yeah, that would say that's one of the only key components to anything with him pertaining to originality.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, you know, and I have a lot to say when we get to that whole section of today's podcast. But a lot of people have said that this movie shouldn't have been a movie, but a stage play. Scarce locations, heavy dialogue.
Interesting.
You know, little blocking. That this is more of a play than it is a movie.
Huh.
But I guess that
I don't
argument
think
could be
it.
made
I
about a
don't
lot of
think
his
it
movies.
could. Here's the thing. Even though it clearly looks, and I think it's also the way it's shot too. The way it's shot, it's very much in the wide. You can clearly tell that. I mean, this is before digital, so he's dealing with real film stock. So probably in his mind, his most important thing that he needs to get are all the wide shots. So that's why everything looks like it's shot in wide, because he had to get that. So I don't doubt that, it could definitely work as a play, but I don't think it works well enough. It would work well enough as a play. I think it has to have that cinematic feel to it.
Well, there have been a lot of play adaptations of this. One done by an 18-year-old named Michael Fassbender. And it's one of his first. Yeah. Him and his giant penis directed a play version of this.
I forgot about that.
The giant penis.
I don't think you've even seen it. You're just imagining it, which is even worse.
I really am.
I think I was lying in bed watching Shame with some headphones on.
Honestly, I wish you were live streaming this because Elaine's got the biggest fucking smile on her face.
Well, I was in bed watching that with headphones on, and you had fallen asleep, and he comes out of the bathroom. I was like, "Holy shit!" He's smuggling bananas in there, and you're like, "Well, I just wake up." I'm like,
I remember you woke me. I was terrified.
Magneto's packing heat,
and I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?" And went back to sleep.
It's like, why is Magneto's arm in his pants?
He's smuggling bananas.
Oh, God.
That never gets old. That's always going to be funny.
Oh, Jesus.
Wait, what were we
it made a good
Dogs.
play. It made a good play.
Made a good play by Penis Man.
But, at this point, Tarantino is kind of hitting the stratosphere, but he's kind of more of the Hollywood darling of the independent scene, not as much with audiences, although, he was getting there, but then it was obviously Pulp Fiction that kind of put him into the stratosphere, and then, unfortunately, birthed thousands of copycats.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because while Reservoir Dogs had all those hints, it was really the whole, we haven't seen this in for so long, or we haven't seen all this compacted together. The whole idea of non-linear storytelling,
hyper-stylized violence, the use of the dialogue, the use of music. We had seen all these elements spread out through other projects, but we've never seen them put together the way Tarantino did. And that's the end result of the first true postmodernist filmmaker who has been born and bred on thousands upon thousands of movies, from the highest Gone with the Wind, production Hollywood kind of movie to exploitative
Kill or whatever, yeah. So from top to bottom, and the guy's an encyclopedia of film knowledge, and then just translating that and taking all these little ingredients into a big pot. And surprisingly, it didn't just turn into salt. It turned into something delicious.
Well, and too, he's the first generation, or of the first generation, that would have had a very expansive lexicon of filmmaking techniques at his disposal for him to put together. And two, a lot of people, find Tarantino polarizing. I'm the first to say that I don't really, I don't connect with all of his work. I like certain parts of his work a lot more than others, but I have to say that you can tell the dude loves movies and he knows what he's talking about.
Well, he's said in interviews that when he's on set, and it's weird for him to use this hyperbole because I don't think he has kids, but he said, I don't have a wife, which, he doesn't currently anyways, but I don't have kids. I don't have friends. The film is my only focus. And until it's finished, I can't return to civilization.
Oh, I see. He may have those things, but they don't exist to him yet. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. It's a very singular mind.
So whoever he's dating, if he's on a 3-month shoot,
bye.
You're not going to talk to me for 3 months. I'm going to be filming a movie, and then I'll come back.
It's a little sad, honestly, that you can't balance the elements of your life together. But that pinhole camera focus is really what gets us the products that he creates.
Well, it's interesting that you should mention that because it's one of the defining traits of Quentin Tarantino was he didn't want to just become a director for hire. He didn't want to just become famous, quote unquote, because he was offered Speed and Men in Black after Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, shit.
And he said,
crazy.
No and fuck no. In fact, he just went to Amsterdam, I believe, and just isolated himself and wrote Pulp Fiction and said, I'm making this movie for a lot less money at a huge risk to my career because I want to make Quentin Tarantino movies. And he's actually doesn't have as much, money as most directors in his level because he's taken those chances of making his own films, taking the time to make them and making them on his own terms and putting a lot of his own money in there, that he doesn't have the net income that he would if he had just sold his soul to the devil.
Well, I think that goes to something that I think a lot of filmmakers need to do, and it is, if you're going to bet on anything, you absolutely have to bet on yourself first. Okay, it's very easy to go and sell out, and I mean with anything. I mean, I'm just talking in generalities, but I mean, I think you absolutely, if you're going to take risk, if you're going to take a bet, you absolutely need to bet on yourself first. And Quentin Tarantino, love him or hate him, he bets on himself consistently. And you know, some movies are hits and some movies aren't. But I mean, for the most part, you can't say that he doesn't put himself first when he's making a risk. And making Pulp Fiction, when you basically, you know, you're the darling of Hollywood, was a risk. A lot of people don't realize that. Casting people like Bruce Willis and John Travolta, who were at that point like C-list actors, which is crazy to think of. But like a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people don't realize that John Travolta was coming off of what? Look Who's Talking. He was coming off of movies like that. And
I mean, that's still fair. He's a C-list actor. But Bruce Willis.
But Bruce Willis in the same boat. I mean, he hadn't really done anything after Moonlighting. So, I mean, you know, he was doing what? Die Hard?
This is a bad idea, John.
Two of them had been done already. This is a bad idea, John.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, for him to go from Die Hard, which was just known for action movies, doing this serious drama, which, yeah, it had some action in it for his scenes, but at the same time, it was about, you know, his little segment was about a man who, you know, had daddy issues, honestly. Severe daddy issues. And, you know, this watch symbolized his entire relationship with his father. And how his own dealings with compromising when his father didn't basically led him into that predicament where, you know, there's the Gimp and Zed showing up.
Where's the Gimp? Gimp's sleeping.
Get out the Gimp.
Him up.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, but a lot of people don't realize that was a risk to
it takes
put those
set
people in there.
to not make a alien comedy starring Will Smith, and instead you want to make a movie about anal rape in a basement of a gun shop. You know?
Yeah.
You know, okay. Good for you. At least
Good
you're
for
sticking
you.
to your what got you here.
Yeah.
But overnight, this guy is as famous as his movies are, and that's kind of never been seen before at this point. Like between 92 and 95.
I think it's in modern times, we haven't really seen that. You know what I mean?
Well, I think because of him, we've seen it with like Kevin Smith. You know, we've seen it.
Kevin Smith came
after him.
He came after him?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, you knew who Martin Scorsese was. You knew who Steven Spielberg were. You knew who these guys were, but they weren't famous. Tarantino, I think, became a rock star as a filmmaker, which I think is as much as he wanted to be known for his films. He wanted to be known for him. And I don't know if that's a level of insecurity or it's just he's just very good at marketing or both, but
he pulls a lot from Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
He pulls a lot of how you treat fame and how you're not just famous for the work you do, but also, you know, your own persona. He was able to not only crank out, you know, really good films, but he was also able to crank out a personality that was as big as his films. Mm-hmm. You know?
And I think unintentionally, his talking style, his inability to slow down when he's speaking. All right, that tick that he has. Yeah. And I don't mean to be cruel, but it can't be ignored because we are like a shallow society. He is a very strange looking man.
I mean, we did talk about it for like 10 minutes during a couple episodes back. So, I mean, he is kind of look like a gargoyle of sorts.
So he's kind of fascinating in that sense. You get this weird-looking guy that won't stop talking at hyperspeed about some movie you never heard of and saying "all right" every other word. It's like, who is this guy?
Yeah,
he's very bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, he went from wow out the gate to on top of the world. You know, a lot of people say you're defined by, you know, not your first novel or whatever you want to compare that art medium to, but your follow-up. I think really it's the third one that you could really be judged by, and I think it was a slight step back from him, but I still think it's a good movie. Jackie Brown.
I actually like Jackie Brown.
I do too.
A lot of people don't.
But the thing is, when you're coming off, you know, he's coming off Thriller, you know what I mean? And then he makes Bad, you know?
Well,
It's just...
you are forgetting his standout performance in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, fuck that movie.
You're forgetting. You're talking about his third. If it's his third, technically From Dusk Till Dawn is his third, because he did the screenplay for it.
Screenplay, and he
acted in it for about 20 minutes.
But you know, a guy like him only defines movies he directs as his movies. And, you know, the joke that we had mentioned earlier about the 10 episodes was that he has stated that he's only going to make 10 films, and that basically means that he is the director of, and they are from his original sources, that before he retires. He doesn't believe
and his
Uh,
screenplay?
And his screenplay.
Okay, just wondering.
That, you know, directing is not an old man's game. And he wants to get out after 10 films. Brian, you'd mentioned on previous episodes that you think that that's a
I think
shtick.
it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's because... Okay, first of all, if you go to IMDb and you actually look up Quentin Tarantino and you look at director, he's got 20 credits to his name as director.
Right. Well, there's things like 4 Rooms that he directed a segment of.
Right,
you know,
and he's done some stuff with, like, you know, Sin City. He was a special guest director. And
television. He did ER, Alias. He's directed those.
So
His turn on Alias was awesome, by the way. He was so goofy in that. Like, he just went full Tarantino,
Yeah.
I feel. He plays this dude
Tarantino went full Tarantino.
Yeah, he plays this operative called McKennis Cole, and he was like abandoned and like left for dead by the CIA, and he like goes toe to toe with Ron Rifkin in this really excellent scene where he's like talking about how he's gonna like bring out the box, like this thing called the box, and we don't know what's in the box yet. But
the fucking box?
We don't know yet. And no, just kidding. And at one point he says something like super goofy. He's like, you know, if you do this, then I won't have to open the box, which would be really excellent for you, you know, in his like Tarantino way.
Like, it'll be really excellent for you.
And and Ron Rifkin's character just looks at him and is like, I can't be the first person having a hard time taking you seriously, can I? It's so good. It's so unsung.
You don't want me to bring out the box, okay?
So, I mean, he has like a ton of like, you know, of acting credits, but you're right. He's done more than 10 things of directing.
But my thinking behind why I think it's bullshit is because if you're thinking of marketing and you've already said that there is going to be a finite amount of my movies, then if you know that, you're going to want to go and run and see those finite amount of those movies if you're a fan of his stuff.
In the theater, because you may
you're
not
going to be like, he might not do any more after 10. He said he's done.
That's a good point.
So I'm looking at it from a marketing standpoint. It's fantastic for marketing. You drive up the demand because it's a limited amount of those things. So, but ultimately, I think he would be very bored if he didn't do another film after his 10th film.
Well, according to him, he's going to write books on filmmaking. He's going to try to be a novelist and a play director when he retires from filmmaking.
But if this is what he loves and he's got this whole auteur thing going on, like, why stop?
Well, I think that, and I don't know if this is his thinking too, is that a lot of times reasons that directing is a young man's game is eventually if you are in the Hollywood system, say you are successful enough that you're a Hollywood director, you got Warner Brothers, Paramount, somebody, you know, distributing your movies, is that you become jaded after a while. It just, the system breaks you down. Well, you want me to direct a movie about robots having sex with bananas? There's a paycheck? Okay. Like, you just give up. Like, Martin Scorsese is another true lover of films, and the system never broke him. That's why you see him make Wolf of Wall Street, and he's in his late 70s, and he's still, like, A-plus material.
Yeah.
A lot of directors will they'll either get old and sappy, like Spielberg, or they'll just be broken by the system, like Francis Ford Coppola, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, now he does wine, so, I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, because he's just, fuck this shit. I'm not playing these Hollywood games anymore.
Like, I gave you guys Dracula.
Yeah, maybe he's afraid that he doesn't want to be a 65-year-old man with a big beer gut and bald spot in the back, like directing Transformers 15 because it's just a paycheck and he doesn't even care about movies anymore. The Orson Welles, it's theory.
That so you're telling me Michael Bay's going to turn into Orson Welles?
Yeah, well, just like you're going to do a bunch of pea ads, like, narration for snap peas because you just are so fucking dead inside. Orson Welles is the greatest, filmmaker of all time, just broken by the system.
It's like, Transformers, I gotta play Unicron? Okay, I guess I'll do that.
Optimus Prime.
That's a good Orson Welles. I think it's, honestly, I think that the most important thing you can do as a filmmaker, as you get older, is just continue to make your own stuff. I mean, that the reason why Martin Scorsese, we talked about him at the top of the show, how he is going to be involved with the Joker origin movie, okay? The reason why he can do that, and he's not, a broken down fat man.
Shell of a human being.
Is that he continues to make his own stuff. And Quentin Tarantino has always made his own stuff. He maybe has done a couple of things here or there that would be quote-unquote studio system stuff, but he's always done his own stuff. No one told him, hey, we have a really cool idea for a, pre-Civil War slave movie in which one of them goes nuts and starts killing everybody. No one had a franchise of that.
Right.
That was all him,
It's true.
Yeah.
He makes his own, he does his own thing, and I can appreciate that. Even though he is kind of a weird human being.
He's quirky. I mean, he defines quirky, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I had, like any young film ingenue.
Ingenue.
Dolores Fuller.
I was in love with Tarantino,
Same here.
growing up. But I started to get a little jaded by him when I saw a trailer for a movie called Kill Bill. And in the trailer said, the fourth film by Quentin Tarantino. And I thought his head was so deeply planted up his own ass. And I was kind of like, fuck this guy.
Nah, dude. This is when I came on the scene. I was like, Kill Bill, what's this? Because, I had a very brief but glorious kung fu movie obsession in college. Really? And, it was like the stars aligned. This came out, right in the middle of it. I was watching kung fu movies with my friends on the weekends. I was taking karate classes during the week. This was made for me.
Yeah.
It was amazing because I was like, yay, speaking to me only.
Well, as a Western fan more than a Kung Fu fan, I did like Kill Bill Volume 2 a lot more.
Right.
No.
And I like the first one a lot.
I don't mind them. They're not my favorite Quentin Tarantino films.
They're polarizing, right?
I guess so.
Some people think the violence is stupid. Some people think it's funny.
Well,
it's very over the top and cartoonish.
I would say it's his first time making over the top cartoonish violence.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that this film almost seemed more like somebody was brilliantly copying Tarantino than it was really him. It just seemed all the things that you would joke about would be in a Quentin Tarantino movie. A lot of people comment on wrestling who've never seen it, and it's clearly you've never actually watched wrestling. If somebody that never seen a Tarantino movie but have heard things I bet blood shoots out the arms and there's a guy dressed like Charlie Brown and everybody's talking about Superman's true identity and Clark Kent, but it's really the other way around. And it's just no, these are really things that are in his movie.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a lot. It's a very stylized piece.
Well, as Bill said, at the beginning of it, this is me at my most masochistic. I think this is Tarantino at his most excessive.
It is. It is. And I think it's something that explored. And if you truly, if you look at the body of work to this point, he has phases and chapters of things that he's explored in the past. So
if you were going to show somebody, they lived in, on the moon and they came back and they don't know who Quentin Tarantino is. You show them one movie, would you show them Pulp Fiction and I'm counting Kill Bill 1 and 2 as one movie. Would you show them Kill Bill or Pulp Fiction?
Is that the only choices I have? Can I choose from any of his work?
All right. Well, okay. Sure. What would you not go with one of those two?
I would be. Here's the thing. I would have to say, what time period is this? Am I showing it in 90s or 2000s? Right now.
Yeah.
For me, I love Inglourious Bastards and I love Django Unchained.
But would you say those
favorites.
the most Tarantino-ish of his movies.
Because you know why I say that? Because they're part of this. Because he, as we say, he goes in phases. So his phase he's in right now is taking historical times and Tarantinoizing them. Like that's what I would show. I would show Inglourious Bastards. Because one would say, hey, yeah, we have that Hitler guy, but a bunch of Jewish guys basically killed him. So they would think it's real, you know? So there's that allure. But I love it because, you know, you could say that it's like hyper violence to the nth degree. But I don't know, for me, as a Jewish person, I kind of like seeing Nazis get killed by us.
Inglourious Bastards has that dark humor to it.
It really
that
does.
runs through all of his films. Like there's a dark sense of humor there.
Yeah.
But they're not exactly comedies, but they're very funny, and it's not like we're laughing at the movie.
No.
We're kind of in on the joke, but there's no joke.
We're laughing
bizarre.
at our inner darkness, I think.
Yeah.
Well, something that is actually played as humorous, which Elaine, you might disagree with this, but it's actually played as humorous, and I think it's just because it's so over the top and so Tarantino. Which should be horrifying is my name's Buck, and I like to fuck. The doctor.
I'm here to fuck.
Yeah, who has been
the orderly, I think.
Raping
it was the
and
orderly,
inviting other people to rape Beatrice Kiddo and Kill Bill in the hospital, and this almost comes off as humorous, even though
that part's not funny to me.
It's humorous, I think, in its absurdity is what I'm trying to say.
It's absurdist. I give you that for sure. Like
I'm not saying there's anything humorous about what's happening.
I know you're not.
Yeah.
But it's I think it's played for its extreme nature. Now, for me, I think the humor is in the fact that Beatrice is going to kill him.
Oh, yeah. It's the setup.
Horribly.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly the setup.
And the payoff.
Because, I mean, honestly, Kill Bill, the whole movie is about revenge. Mm-hmm. So she's getting revenge against everyone, including the first one in that revenge is the orderly who's taking advantage of her. So, yeah. I mean, you have to set up, and like, this is where, I mean, I know, Elaine, you and I have kind of like, well, do you really need to show this for us to kind of get the full? I think in these cases you have to, because we know that the payoff is they really get it in the end to some degree.
And it's so satisfying, especially in the Buck instance, where she just like fucks that dude up. Like,
oh yeah.
You know, usually I'm not one to use, rape as character development or story development. And I don't think that like the instances thereof are immediately forgiven just because the character gets revenge. I think that's what you're talking about. You and I see eye to eye on that. Yeah. But in this instance, it is very satisfying. It's a very stylized genre. Mm-hmm. It's not meant to mimic real life in any way. Mm-hmm. So I think that that departure into almost, I don't want to say a fairy tale, but like the setup of this movie is in particular is very different. Like we know we're not in reality. We're in Tarantino's world, you know?
Well, that extends to every one of his films. Every one of his films has a shade of reality thrown into it, but it clearly is not reality. You look at Inglourious Bastards, Django Unchained, Hateful Eight, all these movies that he's done, including Death Proof and walking all the way down to Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown, they all kind of exist somewhere in between our reality and like bizarro exploitation films.
Right.
They're in that gray area.
Yes.
Where they've got kind of a mixture of it.
I would say that his films are possibly a triangle of, because his next movie, apparently, rumor has it, we've talked about it on the show a couple episodes ago, it's going to be about Charles Manson. And we said that it's going to have to probably be pretty serious take.
Yeah.
Because this is a real person that murdered real innocent people.
Yeah.
Well, not him, but his followers. But I feel that, like, one of his most grounded movies was Reservoir Dogs, which is funny to say. And then he got to his most Tarantino, Kill Bill. And then, ironically, he started coming down a little bit more back into reality with Inglourious Bastards, and even
ironically, even though the ending of that movie is like very unreal. I mean, it's not what happened.
It's so satisfying.
And then even into
it's bomb.
Django.
Don't get me wrong. I'm on team shooting Hitler.
Yeah. And even into Django, and now he's like, so he went up as high as he could with Kill Bill, and now he's coming back down to where he was with Reservoir Dogs.
And that's where the 10 movies thing makes sense, because if this movie were to be even more serious, that means his final piece would be very serious indeed.
Yeah, I hope his last movie isn't just like what we all thought Tarantino could turn into, and it's just a disaster. It's Justice League.
Oh god,
you know what I mean? Like he just DCs himself.
Here's my thing though: is if Tarantino were to become more serious, as we're saying, as he's coming down, does that change? How we view him as a filmmaker.
It has to a degree. I'm not prepared to say whether that is for the better or for the worse.
Right.
And I'm holding out until I see the full body of work if it is indeed going to be finite.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, for me, I don't believe it's going to be finite. I don't believe that someone who spent a good chunk of their life in living in a video store is suddenly going to decide, I'm going to go write books on filmmaking.
Yeah, I don't buy that
because his whole rise to fame is get your head out of the books and watch fucking movies.
Yeah,
and I've always
he's
told
a high school dropout.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I've always said that if you want to become a filmmaker, read some books if you want to know about technique, but go watch some movies. Mm-hmm. Just fucking watch them and watch a bunch of them.
Yep.
Well, and pick up a camera too and do some shooting exercises. Don't go out and try to shoot even a 10-minute short if you've never picked up a camera before. Go out and shoot some back and forth conversations. Go out and shoot somebody coming in and out of a house and picking up some mail, and then just edit the footage and watch it back and be like, why did I succeed here? Why did I not succeed here? You got to pick up a camera, but yeah, Brian, you're right. You have to study the film. I mean, and having the book knowledge is good too. If somebody's saying, here's why, the shot in Citizen Kane of him while they're talking about his low point and he goes to the back of the room and he's very small, and then they're talking about his comeback and he comes back up and he's large. Like, you can very easily not realize those kind of things unless a scholar is teaching.
I mean, that's the thing
is
there's a difference between being able to make a movie and being able to talk about the movie. Like you can easily we'll do things subconsciously, and it's like with writing. You write things in a story because this is the way the story should go. You can't necessarily explain it. And that's why I think people who have no knowledge of the book learning part of filmmaking is they know that these pieces have to go together, but they can't explain why. So that's why you study film, you read about film, that sort of thing. But I just cannot see Quentin Tarantino being the guy who says, I'm going to write the next film theory book. I just can't see him doing it.
Like it's textbooks, you mean?
Yeah, that's what he says he wants to do. I can't see him doing it. It's not a slight against his intelligence. It's just that's not the type of filmmaker that he is. He's someone who he's someone who watched movies religiously his entire life. Lived in a video store, basically. And you're telling me that after he's done doing these 10 movies, because he's laid it down 20 fucking years ago, that he's suddenly now going to stop and write books and plays?
It doesn't seem right.
It doesn't fit. I could see him, what I could see him doing? If he seriously does want to stop at 10, I can see him getting into Netflix and internet. That's streaming. What I can see him doing. That's more his speed.
Or doing a David Lynch thing and going to TV.
Yeah. That's exactly what I mean.
Twin Peaks.
Ooh. I think we're mapping out his career in a much more exciting way than it's been laid out for us.
But I cannot see him doing books. I can't see it.
It doesn't seem quite right. I mean, I think that we all have a lot to learn, and for me,
his poor editor would have to edit out "all right" after every sentence.
Oh, and it wouldn't be Sally.
You take the camera and you pan it this way, all right, and then what you do is if you really want to get that shot to show the intensity, all right. What you got to do is you just got to zoom in on that, all right. And
well, what does he count his half of Grindhouse as?
That is one of his, and I think it's very telling that we've skipped this so far because this comes before Inglourious Bastards. He does count Death Proof as one of his 10.
Really?
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a feature.
He counts, I think, the whole film, even though the love product of a Red Bull and Girls Gone Wild love child.
Hey,
Robert
I love
Rodriguez.
Grindhouse. Okay.
I liked it too. I liked it.
Love Grindhouse.
No, I'm saying the other director is the love child of a Red Bull and Girls Gone Wild.
You don't like Robert Rodriguez?
I think he's a scumbag of a human being.
Yeah, but I like his movies.
Yeah, I think, he's the equivalent of a titty video and an energy drink.
Yeah.
Of a human being. But he walks around that stupid ass cowboy hat and that attitude.
But I like his movies.
I mean, do you Shark Boy and Lava Girl?
We don't need to talk about that.
All right. From
Wow.
Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes.
You went right to
From
the
Dusk Till Dawn?
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, Jesus.
I also love Desperado and Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Once Upon a Time Mexico's all right. Desperado's all right. I mean,
And
Salma Hayek's titties are great
his
in that.
his first guys, El Mariachi. I mean,
love
come on.
El Mariachi,
You made that
too.
movie for like $9,000. Like,
$7,000.
come on.
$7,000.
Bullshit.
Really?
Really?
Bullshit.
You call that bullshit?
Yeah, and so does John Russo.
He calls it bullshit?
Yeah. That movie cost $50,000.
The single
It did
time
not-
that me and
Yeah. It's a perfect marketing tool.
Well,
You're
I mean,
supposed to be $7,000. You are full of shit.
Well, Russo would know that. I mean,
Yeah.
he said how Night of the Living Dead, when we talked to him once, how it originally was going to be 10,000 and ballooned to, what was it, like 50?
Yeah.
50,000 to make? So
Yeah, it was
it's
more.
possible. I don't know. I guess I look at it from the standpoint of he used a lot of no-name actors.
He shot it on film, didn't he?
Yeah.
You can't make a feature-length film for
you couldn't buy
$7,000
the
of film
stock
stock.
for that.
This is also, keep in mind, this is also in Mexico. This was not in the U.S.
He also called
Yeah.
in every fucking favor
called in every
anybody owed him. That was like supposed to be a big part
I've
of
known
it.
people. I mean, this is modern times, so it's probably easier now to do it. I've known people who've made movies for less than 7,000.
They didn't have
now.
to buy the stock.
Right, but this is a different world.
Yeah.
All right, but this is not the Rodriguez.
Well,
you know,
it's important to bring him
retrospective.
up, but Hollywood Shuffle is actually a very interesting movie. The director of that film, which of course I'm blanking on, I have a real nice
Hollywood
habit of
Shuffle?
that. Yeah, of that tonight.
That was directed by Meteor Man.
Yes, it was. But he worked at the studio, and he would take actually film strips that they cut and left on the floor.
Robert Townsend.
And he would just strip them together in that when he didn't have enough money for film stock, and that's what he
Aw,
would use.
bless him.
And there would be chunks of film that like the tape would be on, and then he would just have to edit around those, like when he would get it processed, because he just was taking other people's leftover film
Wow.
stock. But I don't know if that's what Rodriguez was doing. But Mr. Red Bull,
Is he on the wall, John?
no.
The hate wall?
No,
I like him. I don't have. I mean, he's not the greatest human being, but at the same time, I like his work.
But anyway, my overarching point.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to finish the point. Those two are like peas and carrots. Still, from Forrest Gump,
and carrots.
Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino, which oddly they couldn't be very much different from each other.
How so?
Well, one thing, Tarantino is crazed about how everything should be shot on film. No exception. He does not believe in digital. And obviously, Robert Rodriguez is one of the first great adopters of digital. Rodriguez is all over the map in terms of the type of movies he makes. And then, Quentin's very much more focused. There are differences between the two men, but they seem to match up.
The
degree,
style
anyway,
ends
yeah.
up matching up. Like the hyper violence and the just this hyper realistic style that both those filmmakers have. I think that's what you're trying to get at. They're kind of in the same vein. Plus, they also did come up around the same time too. El Mariachi came out in 92.
Yeah.
I think it was 90, 92.
I don't know why I'm thinking 94. But
Keep-
Brian,
keep
you're so
tracking.
good at that. I would never.
I think it's 92 because Desperado came out in 95.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I mean, I'm just saying, like, I just believe that they're
92.
92. Bam.
He's always
bam.
he's always right.
By the way,
dude.
I'm not looking at IMDb when I do that.
No, I know you're not. I'm right here. I'll
I'm
call
not.
you the fuck
I mean, I
out.
have IMDb open because I was looking at Hollywood Shuffle. But I mean, I generally, for some reason, I'm able to pinpoint on years like that. But I just think that they're very similar in style. They're very similar in how they approach film to some degree. They kind of come from that indie background. Even though even though you believe it's only, maybe $50,000 it cost to make El Mariachi, he still did it on his own. He didn't have anyone else. He didn't have any studio backing. It wasn't until he sold it at, what was it, Cannes?
I believe
I think
so.
it was Cannes.
Yeah.
That, he was able to digitize it and not digitize
Which
it, but
is probably what I imagine Robert Rodriguez calls boobs all the time. Look at those cans, man.
He's a repugnant human being. But again, not a Rodriguez retrospective, so
Yeah.
stop talking about boobs and energy drinks.
okay. But yeah.
But I think it's easy to see the source material, but what I think is interesting with, the breadth of Tarantino's work so far is the idea that he has taken different genres and kind of mashed them together, right? Like, we've seen him do a samurai Western, kind of. I mean, because you see Uma Thurman in that fucking outfit, and it's a Western, but it has the kung fu element, you know, like taking two genres and making them fit together, whereas like another filmmaker might not be able to handle them so deftly.
I mean, Star Wars is technically a samurai Western.
Space Western.
Space samurai Western.
Right.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's, a few things that you can't ignore when you talk about Quentin Tarantino, and that's, the main one, the elephant in the room, Mr. Copycat.
Yeah, I mean, well, what do we always say? You know, there's no original art.
But to anybody that says Tarantino steals all his ideas, I would say George Lucas. I would raise you, George Lucas.
Well, I mean,
I would raise you a George Lucas.
Well, I would never say that, though, because I think that the fact that you are homaging things, it's done in Tarantino, especially his case, it's just done with so much love and so much care that, I mean, he has created something new.
May I explain what I meant by that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just shitting on George Lucas again.
No, I mean, obviously, George Lucas, his whole take on film was to borrow from Westerns that he liked, samurai films, sci-fi films, serials that he watched as a kid. Yeah, and all these different things that and combine them into, one easily digestible space opera for babies. And
it's your favorite thing to say.
Space opera for babies.
It's his favorite thing
and the
to
thing
say.
is, you could very much say, "Oh, this is just lifted from this is lifted from that." And a lot of people have actually, with that Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets that came out, have said that the comic that is based on came out long before Star Wars.
It did.
And some things are lifted almost word for word and shot for shot and idea for idea straight from that comic book into Star Wars. So to say Tarantino was the first person to just lift his ideas and then put his twist on it, can't tell me Star Wars isn't just taking from everything else. It is.
And here's the thing. I look at Quentin Tarantino's films, and I see someone who is a lover of movies. He legitimately loves those particular elements that he puts in his movies. He loves exploitation films. He loves these overly dramatic films with bizarro characters. Okay? He loves going to the movies. He loves creating an experience. When you watch a Quentin Tarantino movie, you know what you're getting. You, for the most part, know what you're getting. You're getting something in that hyper-realistic, hyper-violence, almost bizarro world that he creates. And yeah, it's like we're taking, we're opening up the head of him and just looking at all the different movies that he's been exposed to, and what comes out are these films that are his own. I mean, I don't say that he copies. I say that he basically is pulling the best bits. There's nothing wrong with that.
Especially when he creates something new.
Exactly. I mean, I make movies all the time, and let me tell you something. The way they look, the way they're shot, they are going to be pulled from movies that I love.
Yeah.
Even if it's subconsciously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because ultimately, it's true. There is no real original.
That's not a thing.
It doesn't
anymore.
exist.
It's not.
I don't think it's ever exist. Honestly, I think it's.
Well, there's only 6 stories you can really tell.
Right.
But
and
then how you make them your own is how
exactly.
you go.
I think everything is a spin. How do you spin it your way? What pieces are you combining and recombining and changing to fit into some sort of newer configuration of something that we've already seen before? That's ultimately what storytellers, what creatives are doing, is reconfiguring stuff that's already out in the ether into something kind of new. I'm not going to say brand new, because nothing is brand new. That's why I hate copyright law, for instance, because it's kind of...
Thanks, Disney.
Thanks, Disney, you fuckers. But
yeah. So, well, what's everybody's favorite? Did we all say? Brian, yours is Inglourious Basterds.
It's a tie between Inglourious Basterds and Django Unchained.
Okay, and then John.
God, I hate to be so obvious and such a basic bitch, but it's Pulp Fiction.
Hey,
That's
cool.
nothing wrong with that.
That's cool. And then of course mine is Kill Bill.
Yeah.
It's like, what's your favorite Beatles song? Hey Jude. Wow.
I wasn't done talking.
I do love the fact that you refer to yourself as a basic bitch.
Yeah, liking Pulp Fiction isn't exactly wearing leggings and liking pumpkin spice. But I wasn't done. I wanted to at least, elaborate and just say, like, I like Volume 2.
Yeah.
Like you do, John. I mean, I like the first one, don't get me wrong, but the second one is my more favorite of the two.
Well,
For me, I mean, for me, I love the fact that you've got in both Django and Inglourious Bastards, you have people who are being pushed around and being subjected to horrors unimaginable.
Yeah.
Who are basically saying, fuck this shit, I'm gonna fight back.
Fuck this, I'm out.
And it was not just they're out, because it's very easy that they could go out. You've got, Josanna Dreyfus in Inglourious Basterds?
Oh, I know who you mean. I can't remember her name.
The main
I
character.
don't want to say for sure, yes, because I'm not
But
sure the exact
the female
pronunciation.
lead in Inglourious Basterds, she very easily could have run away and not got involved, but she did. She set the trap for the Nazis and burned them alive. And I mean, what's interesting about that movie is that the trailer for that and everything kind of led you to think, oh yeah, the army of Jewish American soldiers are really they're the main characters of this thing, and they aren't. They're ancillary characters. They have their own little story arc, but it's not really about them. It's about the main female character, which I'm blanking on.
Seems to be a thing tonight.
What
It
I
seems to be
really
a
liked
thing.
about the piece too is I as from the filmmaking craft perspective, I thought Tarantino pulled really good performances out of his actors. I thought Christoph Waltz, I mean, that was the first thing I'd
yeah.
ever seen him in. He was fantastic in that. And even though her part wasn't huge, I thought Diane Kruger was good in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just there's the one scene where just like she's playing that game of cat and mouse because she's playing both sides and she's undercover, and just like the terror of being caught on her face. I mean, just like he got really good performances, and I'd never seen that main character actress that we're blanking.
Shoshana, that's her name.
Shoshana, or Shoshana, I think.
Shoshana Dreyfus.
Shoshana, she I'd never seen her in anything before, and she was also excellent.
Yeah. But then you've got Django Unchained, which is very controversial.
It is for good reason. For good reason.
But again, it's the same sort of, vibe as Inglourious Bastards. Subjected minorities getting the one up and fighting back.
Yeah,
That's not something we generally see.
the marginalized.
Basically fighting back, and I love stories like that because it's the story of the underdog, basically.
I think what I liked about Pulp Fiction, I think it was the last time before he was aware of himself.
Yeah,
Do you
I
know
buy
what
that.
I'm saying? Like,
That's true.
I buy
every
that.
film after that was really a Tarantino seal of approval on the projects. Like, I don't think he really truly knew he was Quentin Tarantino.
Grade A Quentin
even
fresh.
by Pulp Fiction, yeah. But after that, he did. And
I could buy that.
So one of the talking points here, guys, one of you have to mention Tarantino-esque.
Oh God.
There's a reason.
Brian's favorite.
Yeah. There's a reason we talked about Burton, and now there's a reason that we're talking about Tarantino. Well, these retrospectives are filmmakers that transcend just their films into being pop culture lexicons in and of themselves, of their style.
Didn't we hear that term in grad school? Like, wasn't that the first time you ever heard Tarantino-esque?
Oh, I heard that in college, you mean, right? Not grad school, but just
I heard it
undergrad.
in grad school.
Oh, yeah, Burton-esque and Tarantino-esque. Like, anytime anybody had on a suit and had a gun, oh, man, it's a Tarantino-esque.
You see how he just doesn't care about life, but he's going to talk about how he likes to kill people? That's so Tarantino. Fuck you!
Well, that was,
vomit.
you saw that from Hollywood, because Hollywood's a copycat system. Is all these movies that came out and tried to be Tarantino, but they really didn't. They couldn't quite hit the benchmark. But wisecracking, mafia guys and
the quick dialogue and like the idea that like no matter what you do out in the world, and a lot of times the profession is like professional killer, but like we all have those petty human conversations with one another about like the most boring shit.
Yep.
Like that it's snappy and it's funny, but it's also very human and very mortal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I automatically think of copycats like Swingers. You guys ever see Swingers?
Yeah. Boondock Saints.
Boondock Saints. Yeah.
Oh my God, remember when everyone thought that was the best movie
thought
they'd
that
ever
was
seen?
oh my God, you guys see this?
Oh my God, it's so good.
It's so good. Shut up.
Even something like Fight Club, I think, is... I mean,
Fight
it's based
Club
on a
has
book, but I
elements of
still
it.
think it resonates from
Well, I
from
think,
Tarantino.
I mean, if you're talking about Fight Club, the movie, and I'm not even talking about the book so much, but if you look at the style of movie, the way it looks, everything, yeah, it's very Quentin Tarantino-like.
Oh, you didn't say ask. It physically hurt you.
Fucking do it.
It physically hurt you. I
fucking
love
do
it.
it.
All right,
Yeah.
guys. I know nobody probably wants to talk about this, but I think you can't really talk about Tarantino without having a thoughtful discussion about it, and that is Mr. Tarantino as a Caucasian man's egregious use of the N-word.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot about that. Well,
I think, his first three films had Django had. I don't think you saw it in Inglourious or Death Proof, but just about every one of his movies has some.
Kill Bill
N-bomb.
probably not either.
No, I don't believe
Yeah,
it
no,
did.
that's true.
Yeah.
You know, my personal thought, and my first personal thought is that my opinion doesn't fucking matter because I'm white. My opinion
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, Lane,
I come from the place of, you know, it not hurting me because
Lane, just to interrupt
it's
you,
not
'cause
my yeah. Sorry.
So I want to build off that point here. That's why I want to cut you off real quick. What do you as a fellow white person? What do you feel as a white person using that in film?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think my opinion fucking matters. I think that we should always defer and listen to black voices on that matter, honestly, because that's the opinion that is the only relevant one in that discussion. But I don't like it because I think it hurts people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that Tarantino's only ever chosen characters that would really use that word. I don't know that it was absolutely necessary for them to use that word. And maybe one or two instances. I mean, obviously in Django Unchained, like, you're gonna see that.
Jackie Brown, you're gonna say.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true
Yeah.
too. But you know, I think it's in historical contexts. Yes, you would see it, but how different would the movie be if it was out? Because, like I said, I do think it hurts people. But like I said again, my opinion doesn't fucking matter. So,
Well, you know, I think he's being as honest and truthful to the characters that he's writing as he can be. You know, and who else uses this word liberally is Martin Scorsese in his movies. But once again, like, I remember there's a line in Goodfellas when he's the Ray Liotta's character, Henry Hill, saying, I know, we don't go to jail. The mafia doesn't go to jail. You know who goes to jail? N-word stick-up men. And
Yeah.
this is the late 1960s, and an uneducated Goomba mafia guy like Henry Hill, of course he's going to say N-word stick-up men. You know, he's not going to say African-American gun enthusiast. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's truthful to the character because they use despicable verbiage
and
like that.
I think it is clear that the characters in his films, for the most part, now I can't speak to Jackie Brown because I haven't seen that one, but I think like in the case of Django Unchained, like only like real, it's only used to illustrate deplorable characters.
And that's the thing too. I can't, and I think that was one of the controversies regarding Django Unchained.
Right.
Was how many times that
Right.
word
And
came
it's
up.
a lot. And
it is a lot. But I mean, again, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Elaine. It's not really my place as a white man to make any sort of judgment or opinion on
and
that.
even if we have the opinions in the greater discussion, that
You know,
our voices aren't the ones that
exactly,
should be heard.
it shouldn't. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying it doesn't matter to me. It's my opinion doesn't matter.
Right,
in
and
the
I agree.
grand scheme of things.
I agree because I
okay?
think it matters, but I'm not the person that should be
Exactly.
determining that.
From my research, two African American voices on this topic who have very radically different opinions on it are Spike Lee and Samuel L. Jackson.
Interesting. Well, Samuel L. Jackson was in the movie.
Well, yeah, no, he's very, very close friends with Tarantino. He has no problem with it. Sam Jackson, and I'm quoting, but not really quoting because I don't have the exact words in front of me, but he said, you know, people act like black people are the only ones allowed to use the N-word. when, that's not the case. And he's like, I know Tarantino. I know he's not racist. He's a friend of mine. And he's just writing the type of characters that are going to talk the way they're going to talk, kind of hinting at, like, if you're uncomfortable as a white person with another white person saying the N-word when you know that other white people say the N-word, then, what's wrong with you? Yeah. But, there's, on the other end, there is
Spike Lee,
who is saying, like, how dare you come off and just use those words and make a carnival sideshow of slavery like you did with Django Unchained.
Right.
To which Quentin Tarantino said that Spike Lee would have to stand on a ladder to kiss his ass.
What?
Holy shit.
Oh, Tarantino, you did.
You're not helping your cause here, bud.
I think that opens a greater question then, guys. Like, did a white man have any right to tell a black man's story, to tell the story of slavery?
Boy, oh my God,
Maybe he didn't. I mean,
the best movie I've seen this year, and I've been trying to see a movie a week.
Oh, yeah.
The best movie I've seen this year is Detroit.
Mm-hmm. Is it good?
It's fantastic. It's the best film, hands down.
Black director or a white director?
Catherine Bigelow, white woman.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that was hers.
Written by her and another white person, I believe.
Wow.
Based on actual history, but... boy, you get into a lot of interesting topics when you tell about one of the worst nights in that city's history of racial violence and murder directed by a white woman. So, boy, that's a whole big,
I know, but I mean,
conversation.
And I didn't mean to get too deep, but I think
it's
a question that should be asked. The people should ask more.
I mean, honestly, like for me, on the subject of that language, I think. I'm kind of in the camp of Samuel L. Jackson that if you were to strip that out, I think it would be more of a carnival sideshow than what Spike Lee is trying to say. That's a disgusting, deplorable word, and unfortunately, in our history, we like to kind of say, oh, well, that happened then, that doesn't happen now. And the thing I liked about Django is that it didn't shy away from showing how horrible
it was very
that time period was. A lot of people in this country like to forget that period existed. They like to say, oh, well, yeah, we had slaves. But whenever you see it presented, what is it presented? Oh, well, yeah, they're in the cotton fields, blah, blah, blah. It's not showing the Mandingo fights. It's not showing the torture. It's not showing all of that stuff.
We see Song of the South.
Yeah, exactly. No, but what I'm saying is, like, even though Quentin Tarantino is the last person we would think who could show, the South in the 1800s, he did a fairly decent job of showing those sorts of atrocities. And that's not even touching the surface, honestly, but that's the one thing I will say is if you stripped it out, it would feel, I don't know, kind of
inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just speaking of like desensitizing things and bleaching them, Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk, a lot of people have complained that I'm sure so it plays well in Germany. They constantly say in that movie, the enemy.
Oh.
They never actually say by name German. Or kraut, or any other derogatory term that I'm sure the boys were using over there because they weren't big fans of the Germans.
Right.
And because to get a PG-13 rating, there is no visual end result of violence. There's no blood. There's no limbs being blown off.
So it's kind of like in Dark Knight when Batman's beating the shit out of the Joker and he doesn't bleed.
Right, yeah. Because they want to make sure that they got their PG-13 rating, so they neutered it.
Made no sense to me. I'm like, the impact doesn't really hit, literally.
So I don't think Dunkirk is going to actually stand the test of time to say something like Saving Private Ryan does because of it's showing the horrors of war. And I don't think that Django Unchained would have stood the test of time if it strayed away from, the N-word, and instead of just saying, this is how every white piece of crap slave owner, former slave owner talked back then, and
but just even like the scene with Leonardo DiCaprio. I know he's your favorite guy.
Oh yeah,
but
boyfriend.
He's your boyfriend.
I'm a play actor,
but even his character, as vile as he is, the beliefs that his character had about phrenology, the study of the skull, all that shit, which is that is the most visceral scene in one of the most visceral scenes in the movie, because he's literally saying, you're dumb, to Django. That was the belief back then. That was not something that was just made up. That wasn't just, this will be done for shock value. That was what people believed back then, and that's why it will stay in the test of time, because it was controversial, because it showed a part of our history that we do not like to acknowledge. And we should acknowledge it more, because if you don't acknowledge it, you can't move forward. That's why also the other movie that does that, 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
That movie acknowledges that past. That one I would say is better because it's not as goofy. I mean, it's not goofy at all. It's a dramatic film.
Right.
But the horrors of slavery are shown in that film as well. If you want Tarantino-esque, I just said it, go with Django. But if you're looking for, you're smiling right now. But if you're looking for a more dramatic,
it's a different smile than the Fassbender Wiener smile, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the most important thing is the despicable characters use it, and it's illustrated, from a place of this is unacceptable.
But I will tell you, that is what worries me about Manson.
I mean, you never know.
Manson is because will he enter into the same sort of, issue?
Mean, he seems to be getting more serious. Again. I think it's interesting that none of us have mentioned the Crazy Eight at all. Or the Hateful Eight at all. Excuse me, the Crazy Eight.
Oh, God.
The Hateful Eight, we didn't mention that at all.
Don't compare him to Adam Sandler.
Sorry, I'm sorry. The Hateful Eight.
Crazy Nights.
And, again, it was a big departure from his usual style.
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy about the film.
The thing is, it would be interesting if that was his last movie, because that movie reminded me so much of Reservoir Dogs.
It very much did.
Yeah. It takes place in one building. They're trying to piece a mystery together of things that happened beforehand. It's,
Personally, I liked Hateful Eight. And I didn't think I would.
I will say this, and we talk very constructively about film top to bottom, and we'll say what works and what doesn't. He's not made a film, with the exception of maybe Death Proof, that I have actively disliked. Yeah. Okay. I can't even say that about Martin Scorsese.
Interesting.
Even Jackie Brown, which is my least favorite, because I don't really count Death Proof. I still enjoy quite a bit, not just because it's got Michael Keaton in it. Woo! But yeah, he's stuck to his guns, and his films have. If you like his style and you like what he puts out, there's nothing that has been truly disappointing.
Right.
I can understand if you just don't like Quentin Tarantino. He's very abrasive.
He's not for everybody.
You know what? He's like a dessert. He's like a triple chocolate cake. If you like chocolate cake, you're gonna love it. If you're not a chocolate fan, or if
you like vanilla, you're not gonna like it.
You're gonna be like, this is just too much. All right. So just to wrap it up, guys, what would you say? Because I'm trying to get myself off the hook. What would you say is Tarantino's legacy, Lane?
I think that whole idea of lover turned auteur, taking the love for a craft as a viewer and then crafting it with your own two hands.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. I think he is he's basically the first fan of movies to make a movie. You know what I mean? We've had people who were just, they like movies. Oh, that's great. But he's one who's the super fan who said, you know what? I want to make a movie. And he went out and made a movie, So
Kevin Smith, Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, these guys could come in the door.
Yes, exactly.
And do exactly that.
Exactly.
I would say one of his legacies, is not his defining one, but Filmmaker is Rockstar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's certainly done that.
The film version of Andy Warhol, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So... Yeah. Awesome. Great discussion. I was a little worried. I was like, how are we going to go with this?
Dude, we got this body ass.
So, don't worry, folks. We'll review that Charlie Manson movie if it ever gets made. So,
yeah. So, Lane, where can they find you at on the Twitters?
Find me on Twitter at LA_craft and be my friend on Goodreads.
You getting some Goodreads?
Yeah, I'm on Goodreads. Yeah. It was more for my other podcast that's about books. But that's the only other social media I have opened up to the public. If you try to friend me on Instagram, I love you, but I'm not going to friend you if I don't know you in real life.
Yeah.
You can find me at the Unreal J Wools, and I always invite film conversations. So if you disagree with anything that I say in the show, like space opera for babies, let's talk about it constructively. I swear, constructive. I'm not looking for any fights.
Yeah, space opera for babies was super constructive.
Yeah. He just
I love Star Wars.
He just got rid of like half of our audience.
Hey, I love Star Wars.
Okay.
But yeah, so if you want to have constructive conversations, hit me up.
Yeah. You can find me at Brian Content Twitter. I also run the Psycho Show page. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw away, or you want to talk a little bit more about Quentin Tarantino, you can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. And make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes. Send us a rate, send us a review. We love getting those. And catch our new episode available every Sunday.
Royale with cheese.
Epicast.